go watch my Battle Factory video from yesterday if you haven't already. I'm just gonna drop that in before I even get into this video. It was an incredible video. We hit almost top 10, won every game, and I froze 2 people and destroyed all their confidence. It was hilarious. Anyhow, we got a VR vote going on in Indie right now, so I wanted to share with y'all how I voted because I think transparency is really good, and also it gives y'all a little bit of insight, of course, into how I'm ranking things, why I rank things how I do. These videos are really fun for me, and even if they don't perform well, I really don't care. I like making them, so I'm gonna make them. Y'all enjoy the content, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and if you are subscribed, like the video, comment down below whatever you want to comment down below. I don't have anything to ask y'all today. Anyhow, so how do I vote how I vote? So here's basically my thought process with a VR. If you are A or above, A- or above, you're pretty meta. I think you should be expected to be seen on teams and tournaments and in games. Once you get to B+, I think some of these mons are a little harder to use, but there's still mons you should expect to run into. B is where I'm like, okay, these are still like good mons, but I think you're starting to be like really team specific with them. And then B- is like niche. C is, dear God, why am I using this outside of like the most specific scenario of all time? Which, I'll be honest, I look at this now, I'm like, Houndstone maybe should not be down here, because it's a little bit better. Really, it's just the stall. Stuff's kind of hard with it. I'll update my vote, but I think Houndstone is, you know, just the fact it's one of the best stalls currently getting run. Anyhow, and then C is like, yeah, you can use these, it's just, like, really hard. Plume probably shouldn't even be ranked. I'm kind of just letting it stay ranked for one more shift. So, as you can see with my S rank, I just moved Bronzong up to replace Mienshau's spot. Even though the tier is like super adequately prepared for Bronzong, and you have teams that certainly tech themselves out the wazoo to be good into it, and with the rise in Registeel usage too, because it's just, you know, even bulkier than Zong and has at least a moderately better matchup against Oricorio, I think Zong just kind of refutes all tier changes, and it works really nicely because, you know, hazard control, even with some new mons getting some more usage, like Chinchino, Avalugg, this mon's been getting used, but you get the idea, Lug, and to an extent even Altaria. I still think that the Superman style, where you just spam boots and ground immunes, is really strong. Bronzong can be just really thrown onto any team as long as it's not a hyper offense, and I'm sure you could find a way with this setup set. Yeah, I mean, at this point, I'd call it S. It also helps, by the way, that the most common removal right now is probably Avalugg, and you dunk on it. Really, really hard. You're checking to Snow as well, which is good. Don't talk about Titan. It will knock your block off, but at least it has to think about what you're gonna do. Maybe you Terra and then you Gyro Ball it, and you do a lot of damage and put it in range of priority. Flygon, I do think Flygon's like a little worse than it used to be, but that's mostly just because Avalugg has risen up, and Snow in general is really hard for Flygon to feel safe versus, but it still remains really splashable. It's kind of just similar to Bronzong in that regard, where I think even if you want to argue the meta's adapted really nicely to its presence, Flygon kind of just still remains great because it has so many tools at its disposal. I've even liked using Specs on it lately. I think Specs is just good, kind of annoying all the Avaluggs that you see, because yeah, maybe they want to come in on your predicted EQs and whatnot, or to check your DD set, and then you just Fire Blast it, or even Earth Power it, and it's gone. It's a very good mon. Scarf's still great, Bandit is still good, Offensive Rocks is still good, DD is still great. You could even argue that the rise of Registeel helps, because it means less Bronzong and less Balloon Klefki. So, there are some matchups where you actually get better. Also, Waros is a little worse nowadays. Amoonguss, even though it's better than Plume at scouting out Banded, it's, you know, still not resistant EQ, so you're happy to have another physical wall around that doesn't actually love taking your attacks, especially if you're boosting. Cool mon, though. We get A+, Avalugg being A+, probably doesn't surprise anyone else. Maybe if you only play ladder, because I still don't see Avalugg a lot on ladder. I see almost as much glassed as I see Lug. But great check into Snow, because the Titan most of the time can't, like, immediately break you. It's got to have, like, Terra or be Superpower. And if it's Superpower, well, Still's got to deal with the fact that it won't one-shot you if you're sturdy, and then you're getting body pressed. So you better hope Snow is still up, or that you can Terra out of the weakness, or that you got a Veil up. Things can get a little dicey. Otherwise, generally speaking too, I mean, there's so many physical attack. I've talked about this forever with Lug, and why I was like, I'm never dropping it off the VR, because at the end of the day, it is an Avalugg, and it can Terra out of weaknesses and then wall every physical attacker. Guess what? That didn't change. So like, it could still, you know, wall Gon, wall Cinccino, wall Scyther, wall Tox, wall Tauros, wall, where's the next physical attacker? Wall the other Tauros, wall Decid, Flamigo. Scrafty will set up forever. It still does all of that. It's just now with Snow around, you've got a very designated style even that you like playing into. Even if it's just like the semi-Snow HO, you see a lot of physical attackers stacked on those builds. There's plenty for Lug to do, and it'll be supported by those Alolan Ninetales. Speaking of that too, I mean, you could literally run these on a balance, and you could go like Ice Body if you really want and give Lug a little extra recovery. Essentially giving it 2 items, which is funny. Basket Legion here as well. Not even because of rain, it's just substitute sets are incredible right now. You obliterate like every bulky water. Gastrodon's a little annoying because it can break your subs, but I mean, I've even seen some Terrablast Grass on Basket Legion. Not on the subset, but on like Scarf. And yeah, Gastro, goodbye. I even know someone was running Mold Breaker Legion just for... just to kind of say, I will flip turn on everything, but also it's really cool because with Gastro, in my view, overtaking Vapo for bulky water. But look at that. Now you can Wave Crash that, do 500,000 damage. And you feel real good about it. Helps too, of course, with Xiaogon. There's just one less wall breaker that outspeeds and doinks you for 5 million damage. Like that as well. There's a lot of reason to run Basket Legion right now. Also a little bit less on Tauros and Toxicroak, so there you go. If you just needed any more incentive. And then Cinccino's all A+. Yeah, turns out this mon's really good. It is a little bit hurt, of course, like I'd been mentioning. Registeel getting so much more common does hurt a lot of Pokemon and their overall viability, but Cinccino will still knock that mon's item off. And you still have to play around Terra stuff with Encore. T-Wave's generally going to be pretty free to click against Cinccino anyway, but like, do you want to give free turns into like Flygon a whole bunch, or Toxtricity even? I mean, those are mons that you will see on the same team. And Toxtricity will happily come out versus Registeel and trade damage on you. Now, of course, if you don't know if it's EQ or not by that point, it talks. Be careful. Be careful. But if you've got confirmation, there's something like even just Iron Press Reggie, right? Then, yeah, Tox will just come out and say, hello, I'm here to trade damage. You better not let me trade damage or you will lose to the rat. So Mon continues to synergize super well with a whole bunch of the other offensive threats. Vibe checking a lot of passive builds with Encore. Vibe checking offenses even because it's a speed boosting Mon that's already super fast. And once you start boosting attack, it's really hard to check. Just don't watch my videos with it. You'll watch me miss Tail Slap almost every time I click the move, and you'll watch me call this the worst Mon in history. When we get down to A, Titan, I did settle eventually on putting it in A. I don't even think Titan is like an amazing Pokemon. However, it is super easy to support. Like, Alolan Ninetales is an amazing Pokemon. I'll be real too, I'm closer to putting Tails up in A+ than I am to dropping Titan. That just goes to show how good the spawn is. But yeah, Titan's really easy to support. Teams do have to be really careful in game with how you play against it. I don't think you have to go out of your way really to build and be okay into it, but it's that in-battle effect that I believe is where Titan gets really, really scary. Ditto being real good right now does hurt it a little bit, but otherwise it's like there's not a ton that I look at and go, oh yes, Titan's real pissed off about this meta change. Most of it it's pretty content with, you know? Like a little less Waros, that's good for Titan. Bronzong still being really good, that's good for Titan, you just knock it. Less Incin, because I don't really see Incineroar nearly as much anymore. I mean, that's good for Titan. Amoonguss, one of the best physical walls in the tier, Gligar as well. It's good for Titan. Really, the only thing it doesn't love is that Lug is super common. And even then, I mean, you definitely can beat Lug in certain scenarios. It ain't easy, but there's outs. Just need to be real specific with it. Diancie A as well. OTR Diancie, still great. Real easy to support against Bronzong and all the other steals. Kind of just similar to what I was talking about with Cinccino and how well it synergizes with the offensive mons at the tier. Diancie fills that same void. But you've also got some of these bulky spike sets with Diamond Storm Body Press. And one of the real nice things right now is that lets you beat up on Oricorio Sensu. It's one of like the few mons that rarely loses to it. Now, Terra Steel Revelation Dance, unfortunate. The thing though about that set is a lot of time when you bust that out, you need a lot of other conditions satisfied for it to sweep. Otherwise, it's like you may get rid of Diancie, and then a Registeel or Bronzong's thrown your way, and you just get body pressed into the shadow dimensions. So it's not great. Otherwise, though, yeah, Diamond Storm Body Press. You're beating it if it doesn't Terra, and then when it tears into a Steel type, most of them are mono Air Slash, so you still lose to Body Press. 2 attacks Ori doesn't really exist right now either, so Diancie's not worried. And if you're on the 2 attacks Ori, I think most of the time teams are just beating it down because it's not bulky enough. Gastro and A. Gastro is probably the best water type in the tier at this point for defensive reasons. Gets either Stealth Rock or Spike on its set too, so you can go with like Rock's Gastro plus Spike's Keys, or you could do like Spike's Gastro plus say Zong or Reggie. You could let this still run Rocks and pair it with one of these two as well. Lets them forego Rocks entirely, so that really helps out a ton. I don't really feel like I have a lot else to add about Gastro. I guess it also helps check Toxicroak better than the other water types do, which is pretty significant. And with Terra, you similarly will just wall Tauros forever. Good Kilowattrel wall as well. Specs doesn't even 2-shot you if you're full Spit F. Yeah, good mon. Also, yeah, another ground type, so you don't have to earn Flagon. Speaking of that, Gligar. With no Mienshao to Ice Spinner / Triple Axle, Gligar is a lot better as a physical wall now, because let's go through the physical attackers. Basculegion, I wasn't trying to check you anyway. Cinccino, I probably don't want to try checking you that much, but you have to knock my Eviolite first, and I can Quake you for a 2-shot with, like, minimal chip. Scyther, look, man, don't try to check this with your Gligar, but you can knock its Eviolite or poison it, or both. So there's at least something gained. Great Muckalola check. Wall, even. You love seeing Muckalola if you got a Gligar. Water Tauros. Help me. But you switch it to C, so you could Terra Water. It's not the worst, honestly. Croak, you wall unless they're like the fabled Ice Punch. Fire Tauros, you're pretty decent into. Flamigo, you're okay enough into. Breloom, if you're like Acrobatics or something, it's not the end of the world, I guess. Hera, you can check a little bit, but again, you probably need to be Acro for it to really feel good. Grafaiai, if terrain goes down, you have some out into it, but a lot of time they'll Terra themselves, and it gets a little dicier. But it does a lot. Same as when it was like S-rank. Dude learns every utility move you could ever want. If this mon had Roost, it would be you right now. Incineroar, I did drop it out of the A+ rank to A. Just don't really see as much reason to run Incineroar as I used to. Outside of it being a dark type, and, well, dark types are great. It's kind of, like, the best way I can put it, I don't think Incineroar has, like, the most clear purpose anymore in the tier, where back metas ago, it was like, oh, well, I could throw Incin on a team with SD, Special Defensive Invest, and I will just wall the ever-loving hell out of Cress, get free setup, and it's great. Nowadays, I'm kind of like, I still like Incineroar a lot, and it still performs in games. There's not that type of designated role. And a lot of the breakers that are common as well, I don't feel like Incin is just some great answer to. It does help that with Oricorio Sensu ticking up in usage. I mean, that's a mon that you can pretty consistently answer, but even then, you kind of need to be Swords Dance, and you kind of need to hope they don't taunt you as well. Because I think once you remove the item, if they Terra, you may not even be able to beat them. Actually, no, because they're all Terra Steel right now, man. You will blitz them, so that's like the best thing I could say about it. You're not great at checking Snow, because Titan will just tap you in the, right on the forehead. You kind of have to hope it's not Ice Spinner if you're going to try and check it with Terra, and even then, EQ may smoke you. Tails as well is a little bit dicey to check, because they're very consistently running offensive right now. Even on Semi-Snow, they're just going like Plot Encore or maybe Plot Veil. Even when they go defensive, it's like, I mean, you're switching in and what? So that you can get Veiled on? Like, who cares? It's not really that good. But Parting Shot's great, Wisp is great, Knock is great in a tier where you have a ton of boots mons. It's just, I could never, like, write off Incin. It does too much. Intimidate. I Terra with Intimidate. I mean, I could be a good typing for whatever my matchup is. So yeah, I mean, even if I don't feel like it has the most distinct role of the tier, it's just, it has too much to drop, like, any further than A right now. I know some people are trying to say A-, and I get it. Just, again, the whole idea of what does he do, though, like, in general, outside of be a, you know, jack of all trades, I don't know. But I think he's a very good jack of all trades. He's an A. Air Balloon Keys is very common, even just running Magician so that you can, one, still paralyze dark types with T-Wave, but two, yoink items. It's kind of like a pseudo knockoff that way. You can maybe steal boots off of something and make it take Spike's chip. Also, just generally, this mon enables a lot of offenses. It can enable weather offense, you could go dual screens. A lot of roles this mon can fill. And I mean, hell, with like Balloon, you technically check Flygon. A lot of times they'll just be like Balloon Magnet Rise. So you have like at least one safe switch into Gon, and even later you can Magnet Rise and just wall it forever. Kind of a Titan check as well if you do that. I think you have to go physically defensive to really check Titan. But you still threaten to a T-Wave anyway, because they're going to be worried that you're Prankster T-Wave until they know for sure you're not. And that can force a Terra Ground out of them, but they don't one-shot you if they can't hit you with EQ, you know? I mean, if they're superpower, look, man, we tried. But otherwise, you're going to be able to answer that. You check, like, Tails as well. You still check Monkey Dory. Just consistent mon. Alolan Muck, I always struggle with where I want to rank this mon. Right now, I think it's okay because the meta's a little slowed down. And by that, I mostly mean it's easier to run the slower teams now with Xiaogon, but there's still plenty of offense, so is it here? Is it here? Tough for me to say. But the mon is pretty hard for any team that lacks a Gligar to punish, and with Avalugg becoming the premier physical wall now in the tier, it's a lot easier to find teams where you can just knock them into oblivion and have some pretty good poison spreading odds. So, there you go. Also, hey, very bulky on the special side, so you're probably checking quite a lot. Dory, even with, I think Xiao was one of its best partners in addition to being a very nice target for outspeeding and revenge killing. That hurts Dory a bit. I just don't really think Dory gets, like, noticeably worse. I think I had an A+ originally, now I have an A. So, still a great mon. You still threaten your trick scarfs on all the steals. So, like, Reggie being more common doesn't really matter to me at all. Sure, I can't do some funny Shadow Ball set like I could against Bronzong to lure it in and beat it down. But, honestly, I don't need to. We're even seeing people, and I hate mentioning this, we're seeing people use Fake Out Monkey Dory unironically now. They throw a black sludge on there, they go Fake Out U-turn Psychic Noise Trick, and they become the worst human being you could run into. Because, yeah, okay, I'm walled by steals. I'll dump a black sludge on you, and I'll then U-turn forever. Guess what? You aren't a check anymore. So is it really walled by steals? I guess not. So yeah, and hey, look, there's still plenty of fighting types for it to enable with, like, you know, U-turn and just the typing has, meaning the Pokemon it draws in. So, like, I could still pair it with, like, Water Taurus, Fire Taurus, Toxicroak, Flamigo, Heracross. I got plenty of good partners, so that is not even really a worry in that regard. Even just Flygon still, it's still a real good partner for Monkey Dory. So there you go. Lola Tails. Snow. Registeel. It's essentially Bronzong, but bulkier. A lot bulkier, too. I remember I did a video on it where I was like, in this video, the Bronzong took, like, over 30, and then the Registeel, later, from the same attacker, took, like, 20. So, the bulk difference is quite staggering. Obviously, you're weak to spikes, which sucks, but we have actual removal getting used right now, whether it's, like, Altaria or Avalugg or what have you. So it's pretty easy to at least give it the insurance against Spike Stack. Not really that big a deal. And I think Registeel being able to tech its movesets with, like, EQ, T-Wave, Iron Press adds a nice little dimension of ambiguity to its overall set, lets you have some extra counterplay too against your checks. So maybe you're worried about a Chandelure switching in. Well, okay, just run EQ then on this one if you're worried about your Shandy matchup. You're worried about Some physical attacker, well, run Iron Press. And just wall those physical attackers forever. It's just, yeah, it's a Registeel, dude. I mean, it's really hard for this mon to be bad. Scyther, I still have A, because it's the same Chinchino team stuff's really good. It does kind of hurt that Diancie got better. I'll admit, even like Registeel slowly getting a little bit better. Lug, like, it makes sweeping a lot harder for Scyther, so it may end up falling a little bit. But a little bit's gonna be like to here, you know? And Scyther still fits on the premier style of HO, so it's not like it fell out of the meta. I do say, I claim these are my votes right now. I'm still gonna end up changing stuff, but this is where my mind's at right now. Scyther could fall, but I don't really see it falling any further than right here. Water Tauros. It's a little worse right now with Basculegion being so good. And, of course, Gastro being able to Terra and wall you, similar to how Vaporeon always has. The big hitter to it is, like, two things. One, I think Incin being a little worse sucks. Three things. Incin being a little worse sucks, because that was one of the mons you love to switch into. Two, Snow. Alolan Ninetales in specific. That's just a mon that checks you, man. A very good and very common mon that checks you. And then three, Amoonguss. Another very good, very common mon that checks you. All that said, I mean, Water Tauros still has Intimidate and Bulk Up sets going for it, and those are very, very good. And if you run, like, Banded, well, Zen Headbutt has never been an easier move to justify on your sets. You will two-shot Amoonguss, you will make their life hell. So, is it worse now? Yes. Is it significantly worse? I don't think so. That's really all I have to say. Croak! Croak's another mon that may end up like Scyther falling out of my A into A-. Gligar's a lot better now, which sucks for it, but also Gastro being the common water type. That's hard. This mon's a lot better of a check, because it has Earthquake. That will do a lot. Can I beat Gastro with Croak still? Very, very easily. One, I could be Balloon, and that actually walls some Gastro sets, because there are some Surf, Earthquake Gastrodons that get used. I will then wall you. But also CC just does a ton. So if there's specially defensive Gastro trying to switch into my Croak, yeah, have fun. Have fun, it won't go well. But there's, yeah, I mean, the mon's definitely noticeably worse now. It's just still great, though, because you still run into plenty of, like, Vaporeon teams, and you live rent-free in their head. So that's good. Toxtricity, it's just the same breaker. I guess Gastro being more common kind of hurts. But, I mean, Boom Burst does 500,000 anyway. And then I force it to Terra, and then guess what? I get the Volt Switch on you forever. So really, things haven't changed at all. And then Vaporeon at bottom of A. I always struggle with where I want Vapo, A or A-. For now, I'm putting it in A. It's a Vapo, man. I think Vaporeon teams still see enough usage and are successful enough to where they can justify, I can justify keeping the spawn in A. And I mean, hell, if anything, Croak getting worse is a buff to Vapo, you know? And Vapo, of course, also supports, like, Registeel super well. Pretty good mon. A-. Amoonguss, I have an A- to start off with. I know some people think Amoonguss is, like, way up here. My take with Amoonguss is I just don't know what its purpose is beyond being a regen wall. I think it's a really good mon, but in terms of mons you actually are walling out of, like, the fighters, there's one. And even Water Tauros is coverage for you. So I don't know exactly how good it is. Helps that regen lets you scout out a lot of the choice mons, like Basculegion you can scout out real easily, Flygon you can actually scout out. There's a difference between Amoonguss and Vileplume, for example, here. Vileplume was potentially getting two-shot by choice band Flygon, and didn't have Regenerator to do anything about that. Amoonguss, at the very least, has Regenerator, so it gets a little bit more say. But otherwise, yeah, I mean, it's just good utility mon with regen that will try sticking around for very long. My mind will probably change eventually and it'll go up here, but for now, A- is fine for it. Shandy. Shandy is another mon that definitely could end up going up more. Avalugg is super good right now. Registeel's super good. Bronzong is still really good. I just need to actually use Chandelure more. For now, it's like, the meta has so much offense, I don't know if Shandy should go up, because in offense, it's just not, or on, against, can't even speak. It's obviously not too good, and I think P2, this is definitely a take. I think P2 is really, really good right now. And yeah, P2 just walls you forever unless you trick it. And when you trick it, you don't do anything like breaking wise that something else can't do. That isn't marginally more scary. So, I mean, Shandy could go up. It may stay here. I think it helps that Incin's worse, and it helps that Gastro you can Super Smoke with Energy Ball. I just don't like the speed. I'll be honest, I think I've convinced myself, though, to move it to A. So we'll move it up here. There you go. You see me in live time making some edits. Ditto and A-. Imposter! Nah, I mean, again, there's just a lot of offense that you like to be able to stunt on with Ditto. Titan, of course, a big one. But even things like Chinchino, Scyther, Alola Tails even, that, because you can just outspeed if it are nasty plotting up, you obliterate them. Ditto could be, like, even B+, but I put it A- because I wanted to be unique. Kilowattrel, this is, like, a big drop from where I think it... No, I think it already was A. But some people were having it up here originally. Now I have it all the way down to A-. The main thing for Kilo was nowadays we just are not really loving how weak it is. But Gastro being so good, and Registeel now being more common, and even Diancie seeing a bit more of a surge in use. All these tools kind of remind you that Kilo sucks when it comes to being strong. So it's kind of just now looked at as a weak speed option, and we've got strong speed options. They're not as fast as Kilo, but I mean... They don't need to be. So, kind of hurts its overall justification to go on teams. Also, you know, no Mia and Xiao means you don't have this as a way of saying, hey, look, I'm faster than Xiao with this Pokemon, guys. Sensu, A- from being, like, in B right now. Taunt Quiver is just very, very good. It's making grassy terrain teams also, like, viable once again, because people are using this a lot more now than they were when Oricorio Pom-Pom was originally banned. And yeah, it turns out this mon is also very solid. Now, initial typing compared to Pom-Pom is a lot worse. Pom-Pom's big thing was that electric flying is just a super good typing. I mean, hell, it's why Kilo was so good for so long. And Sensu is just weaker to a lot of stuff. It doesn't have the same opportunity for switching in that Pom-Pom did. So initial setup opportunities are a lot harder. It requires a lot more support. And of course, in a tier with a lot of viable dark types, you don't like those matchups as well. On the flip side, though, I do think Revelation Dance sets are a lot better on Sensu than they were with Pom-Pom. I think with Oricorio Pom-Pom, it was more theoretical, where people are like, oh, but you could run this, but no one did. With Sensu, people actually do mess around with Rev Dance a good bit more, and it feels a lot better to use. So, do that all as you may. It's also, I think, a little better against P2 than Pom-Pom was, but I'll be real, I don't know why I feel that way. It's kind of just me saying, hey, this is how it's felt. I don't even think it's true. I think for some reason Sensu, I just see win the exchange more than I saw Pom-Pom, like, simply win the exchange. I don't know how that makes any sense, but it does to me, okay. Anyhow, P2. P2 bothers Toxtricity very effectively with tracing its Punk Rock. Same with Chandelure by tracing its Flash Fire. This is probably an overranking, I'll be honest with y'all, but I think P2 just on paper has like some very good justification to get used more than it currently gets used. And if you want, like, yeah, you could say P2's more down here. I just feel like in the meta right now, it fits so seamlessly with all the things it can trace to check attackers. Even like Flygon, just tracing its Levitate and saying, yeah, you don't get to hit me anymore. Scouting out the regen walls, I guess. I just don't want to switch into this one with a P2 because they run Toxic frequently. Amoonguss doesn't. But you can switch into Amoonguss and be like, yeah, I'm getting some regen real quick. And I still have Recover too. That's also like super good. Hell, I'll switch this into a Scrafty if it got poisoned earlier. I'll trace Shensky. But yeah, that Porygon 2 is a very good Pokemon. Am I overranking it? Sure. But the Eviolite Bulk, having Recover, Foul Play dissuades setup supers, T-Wave even just dissuades them. And hell, again, into Oricorio. No, this is why it's... Okay, no, this mon's definitely better to Sensu. This was the reason I was trying to remember. If this mon wants to Rev Dance against you, say you tear it earlier, and they want to start Revelation Dancing, I not only copy your Quiver because of Dancer, I will now copy your Revelation Dances. You want to see me hit you with a Ghost Revelation Dance? Be my guest, and I'll Ice Beam you on the same turn, and you will drop. It's literally what, like, this mon kind of makes Air Slash so much more necessary to have. Because do you really want to have to always Terra against P2 just so you don't lose? No, not really. So there you go. Porygon Z, got both of them here. It's still a great breaker. It is worse with Registeel being more common, but you can go like Terra Ground if you need. You can even just be Trick with a Specs or Scarf. That'll help neuter Registeel as well. Even just being Terra Ghost, honestly, is pretty good into Regi. Because they're not doing much to you anyway. You can get paralyzed along the way, but... From there, where are they going? Are they trying to trade with Heavy Slam? PZ will at least trade down the Registeel's HP. And maybe that's all you needed to do. Because, hey, if you got something like Scream Tail, that'll then Calm Mind up and win. By the way, Scream Tail's really good on offense still. I see it a little less on the current offenses that are getting used, but in my head, Scream still fits on those semi-snows quite nicely, because, again, you're pressuring steals. What does Scream want pressured? Steals. So it still does the same CM stuff. That's pretty much it for Scream, though. Just a good HO-mon. Not really much more, but hey, that's all it needs to be. Glowbro! Much like Amoonguss, it's still just an annoying physical wall with Regenerator. The difference is I think this mon just checks the not the waters. No, not at all. It checks the fires a lot more reliably overall. The fighters, right? Did I say the fires or the fighters? I meant like Pow Pow Boxing Gloves type. Just does that a lot better. Because I'm not weak to coverage from like so many of them. And I'm a little bit better at punishing, say, like Croak. Like you got Sidekick or Psyshock. Water Tauros, you know, give that to Amoonguss. Like Fire Tauros, I check that a lot better. I check Flamigo a lot better. I check Breloom even a lot better. That one's kind of a wash. Sludge Bomb is going to do enough. And Terra Normals, well, neither of them are good into it. Heracross, both of them kind of suck too. Anyhow, basically what I'm saying is they both check about the same amount of mons with the same degree of effectiveness, so pick whichever one you want on your team. Fire Tauros. I have this guy here because I think he's always been good. Amoonguss dropping gives even more reason to use it. And it's like debatably a little better against Satitan than Water Tauros is. I think Fire Tauros is like a little better into that matchup only because I know there are people running Air Balloon, which, again, it means you're immune to EQ. But if I'm immune to your EQ, I actually even have super effective Raging Bull against you, so if you have a Veil up, I can at least get rid of that on that turn, while also threatening 1,000,000 damage. Water Tauros can get rid of the Veil, but it will not do nearly as much. That may matter when trying to Revenge Kill. So there you go. Uxie, A- as well. Very, very scary setup mon. And you see this mon on terrain more than you do like Scream Tail, so that's where you kind of get a little bit of distinction in how you use the mons. Like, Uxie's still good on generic HO too, but much better of a terrain abuser, because you got Draining Kiss to go along with some recovery. And then you get the Seed Boost, and you're just really, really hard to take down. Now we get to B+. And as per usual, this is where we start speedrunning a little bit of it. You'd shell out Gunrake is so funny. Because these mons are a little worse. Up through here, I'll still try to give a bit better of a reason for why these are here. As we get down more and more, though, you'll understand why. So Altaria, it's a pretty good defogger. Natural Cure is just always useful as well, especially in like the Registeel matchup. I can come in on you if you T-Wave me, I don't care. That's going away later. Wisp is also just, frankly, pretty annoying, because a lot of the mons that switch into this are things like Toxtricity, Deancey, they get Steals even, and they don't like being burned. Some of them because it literally reduces their damage output, others because it just gives them less turns to break. Like, you burn a Toxed, and you get a Hazard up, you could probably, every time it comes out, be costing it well over a quarter of its HP. And that's really good to make sure the mon does not run you down. Bramble, I still think Bramble's okay enough as a spinner. It checks Water Tauros. I'll be honest, it's kind of a weird mon, but I like it. Sometimes that's really the only justification I'll have for these. Oh, also, you mess up Zong pretty decently if you're, you know, just running normal moves like Poltergeist on it. So that's good. Yeah, I'm gonna be real, guys. The Bramble justification is losing me right now. Help. Anyhow, Decid. So you may think Decid would be bad in a tier with Incineroar. I'm here to tell you, not really. You get, like, a lot of them are banded U-turn anyway, so you just chip Incin whenever it comes out. Otherwise, I mean, if you're building with SD Decid, you're definitely pairing it with mons that chip away at Incineroar. And at a point, you get to Terrigo's Poltergeisted at +2. +1, I guess, because the Incin will intimidate you. And you will pick it off. It's kind of similar to, like, the Muck calcs that when I used Decid that one time, way back when, I was showing throughout the video because I'm like, yeah, okay, so this is what I need to be able to pop the Muck when I boost up to +2 with my Poltergeist. So the mod's perfectly capable of breaking some of these dark types that you would give it issue. You may worry about, like, Overquill, but Overquill doesn't really get used a lot. Scrafty, of course, you just have Leaf Blade for anyway, and any other dark type is kind of irrelevant, or just not common enough to where I'm, like, worried. Flamigo B+. This is a little bit of a preemptive ranking on my end, but I do think Migo fills in pretty well for Mienshao. It's not nearly as durable because Brave Bird just is recoil inducing, and you know, you still take damage from rocks. Any like random stray hit, like a knockoff, I mean the damage sticks unless you're running Roost, which then also means you're wasting turns using Roost instead of attacking. But overall, it's still pretty hazard resistant since it's immune to Spike. And yeah, I mean, with Amoonguss and Avalugg being two of the most common physical walls, yeah, I mean, I'll take the mon that has stab for each of them. Super effective stab. That's really good. So, we'll see where Migo ends up ultimately. I do think, though, that it'll end up being at least meta. How meta? Like, is it going to go up to here? Probably not, but I think it'll at least settle around, like, low A's, high B's, probably forever. Inteleon, I don't think Specs is any good because there's just too many immunities to Hydro Pump that get used, but the Taunt boot sets have looked solid. We did just see Acid 13 beat Eternal Ocean in UCL with a nice Taunt Inteleon set. The idea just being, you know, you still U-turn spam forever, but also now you're not as punished for water moving into the immunities. But you can also taunt them, so you can stop Vaporeon from Wish Passing, you stop Gastrodon from setting its hazards, and it just makes it a lot less of a momentum sink. You can end up actually just flipping the momentum entirely. And another mon that similarly can leverage those matchups in Spheres, Meloetta. Because Sub-CM is actually really easy to just exploit the water types with. You can guarantee with EVing even just that your sub won't be broken by their Scalds, which is quite nice. And even choice sets are solid. It's kind of like a budget Monkey Dory at that point, with the main benefit being, one, a little bit better special bulk overall, a lot bit better, but also that you're immune to Ghost instead of weak to it, so that can help out if you're worried about Shandy for any particular reason. Overquill B+, Rain is good still, but with snow dropping, it's certainly noticeably worse, and for a while too, it hadn't been getting used at all. Other niches, like Overquill's done some Scarf stuff and it's okay. You have things like Fast Destiny Bond, potential spikes being thrown on the set too. These are all like okay enough niches, but yeah, Quill is definitely struggling to have a real purpose in the tier right now. Maybe something like Scarf could mess up a Sensu though. I don't know though. It is really tough to think of reasons to use them on. Scrafty, it annihilates bulky teams, and Elias Sai, shoutouts to him. He has shown through SCL and just in UCL every tournament he plays in that what is essentially semi-stall, or like, because I'm not calling his teams bulky offense, they're semi-stall. They're viable. Scrafty oftentimes shits on them. That's good enough reason for me. Tornadus, I think a lot of times it's just for enabling teams with like, God, like weather. Yeah, rain, sunny day, whichever one you want to run. Though, shoutouts to Mr. Big Tony 2014, one of my NUCL teammates, he actually just straight up won a game in 10 turns with a Nasty Plot Tailwind Tornadus set. He used it with Satitan Semi-Snow, and yeah, guess what never came out? The Satitan. Tornadus won by just clicking moves after Tail Set Veil. As an aside, that's pretty much why I've said Ninetales should be banned, by the way, instead of Satitan. Like, this mon we see frequently letting other mons set up and win. A lot of the time in the Titan games, the mon is on the team, but it is not what is winning the game. So, you know, again, I digress. It's not this video, but for, you know, again, that would be my point against if I ignore the entirety of, like, well, precedent says we should ban Alolan Ninetales, and what else also says that we should ban it is that Titan was here for so long and was, like, hardly meta. There's a lot of revisionist history being done around Titan, but I won't get too far into that. People can have their opinions. I would just also say, look at the games. Even if you want to say, even though to throw away the whole timeline, look at the games. Tell me what Alolan Ninetales does the most in those games. Tell me what Titan does. This mon is why those teams are winning, not Titan. The argument for Titan is that it's too restricting on building. Anyhow, Gardecuno in B. And also have Mr. Javier in B. Shout out to Sue and Braviary. The difference between the two, because, you know, you may look at them, same typing, surely they're the same mon. No. No. So, Braviary is mostly a breaker. You still see agility thrown on it sometimes. And it's still not really being a setup sweeper, though. It's just kind of like, you have no better fourth. Like Roost, I'd really rather not use too much. So, agility means I could boost up my speed and just break better, because now less revenge kills me. Gardecuno, I'm trying to set up sweep with like Calm Mind and Recover and take the game maybe a little slower. You can go offensive EVs on it still, and then it kind of lets it break too, just because, you know, you got maybe competitive even to cheese teams where they stat drop you. But otherwise, I mean, the mon just has a lot of special attack. So I could, you know, maybe Calm Mind up once, and then if you don't have a steel type, or at least if I've KO'd your steel type, yeah, it becomes really hard to pivot around. Generally speaking, I don't really see either of them do a ton, though. Braviary just really limited by speed, so you have to find that turn to agility, and even then, I mean, are you one-shotting everything? I hope you are. Gardecuno just takes so many turns to amp up, and a lot of our steel types can still deal with it along the way, whether it's just through chipping away and then getting something else in versus the Gardecuno to threaten to one-shot, or if it's just paralyzing it if you're like a Registeel or Keys, and then slowly trying to beat it down, or just cost it turns with full para. That then, you know, maybe they turn into you switching into, say, like, I don't know, an Incineroar. Maybe Incineroar comes out once you paralyzed it and just threatens to tap it on the head with a, you know, Flare Blitz after a Terra Steel or a knockoff pre-Terra. I mean, hell, Incineroar probably just lives a hit anyway, Swords Dances up, and then one-shots it. So, yeah. Breloom. I hate Breloom. I think this mon is just terrible to use, but every time I face it, it seems really good. So that's where you get the conflicting opinions in my head. I think that the Gliscor impersonator set is really good against bulky teams, and it flops against everything else. And in any other Breloom set, I just don't think is that good. I think Sash probably has the most merit, like Sash SD. And even then, I think too much in the tier is faster than you and resist Mach Punch to truly get mileage out of it, so, eh. Paparaja, I low-key like Raj the most as the Steel-type check to Sensu, just because Raj actually is strong enough to threaten a two-shot, which is pretty cool. Also, you know, Whirlwind, Knockoff, good synergy in the Spikes meta. Has a lot of coverage still, even though it lost Power Whip and maybe other coverage moves in the generational transition. I just don't remember what other coverage it lost. But it still has enough to where you have a lot that you can test out, tech for whatever team you have. Just see what you're weak to in any given matchup. Florges, it's like Trick Scarf and nothing else that it runs, and I think Florg is also super team specific to begin with. Like, a lot of time you probably are just better off running Monkey Dory anyway, if you want like some Trick Scarf stuff, or like even Meloetta or PZ, but I think Florg has the benefit of what other utility moves you can throw on it. So like Wish is really good, even just CM if you want to have it as like another win con on your team. Because when team building, you don't want to necessarily dedicate too hard into one idea of how you win games. It's just, it means like when that one way doesn't work, you're usually toast. So CM Trick Scarf Florg gives you that like other out, where you're like, okay, well I lost my other dude, but maybe Florg looks good this game. I dump my Scarf on their Bronzong, and then chip away at it with my whatever the hell, and then I sweep late. Heracross. I still don't know when I'm using Heracross outside of teams I just explicitly want to use a Heracross on. But, I mean, hey, it breaks really well. I don't know why Heracross bore for graph here, by the way. I do this alphabetized. That's not the alphabetical order. And yeah, Graph. Grafii, because grassy terrain is good right now. And SD Grafii has enough annoying setup tools, much like how, like, you know, you got Encore on these goblins. This could just be Veil. Oh, Encore on this goblin, too. Enough to, like, bother, though, your counterplay. You even got knockoff to Bronzong. You got low kick for Registeel. Nice customizable. And with Quagsire long gone, you don't have to care about Terrablast Grass, so that's cool. Milotic, I sent this all the way down to B. Why? Because I'm not using Milotic on any damn team instead of Vapo or Gastrodon. I just don't see a reason to use it on those teams. Recover is, like, good. Gastro also has Recover. Not being quad weak to Grass is good. It's just not enough for me. Milotic definitely has a place still. I really struggle to find a team where I want it ever over the other two. And so for now, I'm putting it B. Alolan Sandslash, you can definitely run it alongside Tails and Titan, but on those more dedicated snow teams, we're really struggling to see those see high skill usage, you know, high play usage, common usage, consistent usage, whatever adjective you want. And they're not getting used a lot, but it's definitely still a overall buff for this mon, the recent meta shifts. So, I mean, there you go. B is fine. We'll see if it ever picks up more. Pert in B as well. Ismon has really struggled now for a while to find spots on teams, and it really hasn't gotten any better now with Gastro and Gligar both getting really common. Spadef sets see a little bit of use, and they don't end up being bad, but it's just kind of... You want to talk about, like, Incin being jack of all trades, master of none? It's a great jack of all trades. Pert kind of isn't. There's a lot that you can try with it, but a lot of it doesn't give you, like, high rewards, or great rewards. Sylveon I also threw in B. I think Mienshao leaving kind of killed off a lot of reason to use Sylveon for defensive purposes. It's still a good mon in terms of just Wish Pass being something it does rather consistently, and how there are a lot of mons that you want to support with that. The Fairy types are still helpful in general, just because Fairy is generally a good typing. But it's like, again, I go back to Amoonguss. I don't know what Sylveon, like, specifically is checking a lot of the time, other than you just hope the bulk's enough. But Amoonguss at least has Regenerator, and then, like, even Foul Play. It's, like, just these general nice tools to say screw you to a lot of Pokemon. What does Sylveon have? Roar? Okay. That's great. I'll throat chop you with my Terra Steel Flagon. Talk to me later, buddy. Tentacruel B. The mon for a while, it had risen in usage a good bit, got to B+. And then people right around then realized, yeah, this spawn is really easy to beat. So I moved it from B+ down to B, because I still think that it's okay. Like, I definitely enjoy all the utility moves it learns, and how you can pick and choose for whatever team you have. It's just so common. This spawn feels like it's letting everything in. So there you are. Thwacky B, because it sets terrain. Serena B, because I do think it's an okay enough spinner when I use it. And Gingineer also uses this one so much. I mean, yeah, it admittedly does okay. So, not an amazing mon, but certainly not the worst. I think it also is one of the mons that benefits the most from Gastrodon getting more usage. Because even though that mon will have Ice Beam, it is something that you literally just come in and spin on. And, you know, knock off for Bronzong, even for Registeel. It's really nice that you have that, too. And a Hisui type B, you may wonder why I have it in B when Shandy's all the way up in A, and the easiest answer I can give is twofold. One, a little harder to break Gastro and the waters in general with, but also, two, because Shandy's an A. I mean, Shandy, there's the opportunity cost to, well, if I'm running this, I'm not running a better mon. And a lot of time I'd just rather run a Shandy. Shandy just does more, it's a lot stronger, generally speaking. Eruption, of course, from Hisui type's really good. But yeah, maybe just a difference in power. Maybe you could do something with this mon that clearly sets it apart from Shandy, but I have yet to find out that something. Moving to B-. A lot of these mons aren't worth talking about too much. Belly Bolt, I think it's a fine physical wall, but with Kilo falling off, it's gotten a lot worse. Static is cool to threaten Gingino. General good check to fighters just because of how bulky it is, but I think you often need to pair it with like an Altaria or some other secondary check. And yeah, being weak to Flygon is kind of shit. Shouts to Terrablast Fairy though. Watashi using that in SCO was cool. Dragalge in B-. I really want to believe in this mon, I just don't know when I'm using it. That's the thing. I think Poison Point defensive could be okay as a fighting type check, but that's kind of where the buck stops with useful roles I can think for Dragalge. Dreadnought B-. I'm sure that Shell Smash Dreadnought is good on HO. It's just not their HO getting used. To Dunsparce, specially defensive probably is a really good Oricorio Sensu check. In some ways, it might even be a little more consistent than PZ, because you can Dragon Tail it out always, so you don't even have to worry about, like, getting taunted. And say the Terra Fairy, well, one, I probably still have a Steel type anyway that beats you down. But two, then I Body Slam can't even speak. Then I Body Slam Paralyze you. And yeah, have fun playing the game with your Sensu getting full parried every time you try to attack me. It's bad enough that you'll miss an Air Slash every now and then, but God forbid you just have a sequence of like 5 turns where you effectively do nothing. Galvantula all the way down to B-, even with Araquanid leaving. Recording for too long, I can't speak anymore. Even with Arac leaving though, I mean, webs are just so irrelevant to the meta now. And I also think webs have just lost so many of the best Pokemon to go on the style over the months. Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of been forcibly taken out of the metagame. Goodra B-, because unfortunately for Phantom Mystics, I do not buy into the hype at all. Whatever hype there is, I don't think Goodra's, like, really doing anything. Yeah, in theory, Knock Toxic Fire move is great. I just don't feel like it bears out in practice. Hitmonlee because of terrain. I hate Hitmonlee, by the way, but it's pretty much always on the terrain team, so I'm not gonna, you know, spite rank it in, like, C or unrank. I'm just still putting it B- because I do think there's a noticeable downgrade from, like, where is it, Grafaiai, and then even just, like, any other terrain goblin that's higher up due to other niches it has. Hoopa in B-, which isn't even on the VR, by the way, or the vote slate. I just am still putting Hoopa here because it was on the template, and I do think Hoopa's good enough for B-. You know, with these two mods being at the top of the meta, how can I not say Hoopa's good? Or at least decent. It is at least viable, leave me alone. Houndstone B-, like I said at the very start, I mean, it is pretty much the defining trait of stall teams. The, like, most successful stall right now has a Houndstone. This mon puts in a lot of work every time I see that stall used. Just a very reliable physical wall. Very good at also ensuring you don't lose the game with Roar. Wisp. Very nice mon. Infernate B-, I may even move it up to B. In using it and watching it get used, it has seemed like a fine enough physical pivot. Still not a great one. And, like, it is very weak. At least it feels very weak. 108 attack is not good anymore. But it is fine, and again, when you lose a mon, you look for substitutions. Migo and Nape are pretty much the two mons that are getting looked to the most to replace Xiao as the physical fighting pivot. They're both doing alright. Ludicolo B-. Rain is definitely worse, so Ludi fell a little bit, just not as much as, like, Kingdra, for example, which, I'm gonna be honest, Kingdra may not even be worth using, period, anymore. But it is still good as a third rain setter. Beats up on the bulky waters pretty well. Fine mon. Knuckle Stack. It may not even be worth having up here anymore. Maybe it's more like a C rank mon, but there are some stalls with Mr. Knuckle on them. They get used. And Knuckle is just okay enough. We'll see. Earthworm, it checks Titan when boosted, it checks Banded Flygon, don't talk about Fire Punch, or Mixed Fire Blast, or Specs. And that's kind of about it. I guess it checks Scyther too if they're not CC. I just don't think I've really seen many Scythers drop CC at all. Also, just kind of a bad steel type, but you know, we'll ignore that. Raikou, I'm gonna be real, once again, I'm really hard pressed to not drop this lower. I'm just kind of trying not to be the trailblazer. I will once again mention though, Gastrodon is very meta. How is Raikou even ranked? I'm kidding, you can beat Gastro. But yeah, it's a fast electric pivot, and it's pretty strong. It's fine, dude. And Torton B-, I have not seen the Torterra get used really at all for a long time. And Tort on HO has not really been a thing for a long time either. Maybe Grassy Terrain gives it some niche? Because it learns Grassy Glide? Maybe? Perhaps? But we'll see. And we get down to the C rank shitters. Colossal, it has roll compression, man. Drift Blim, it's fine on some of the bad terrains, like Electric and Psychic. Duraludon, I've seen it be kind of annoying with the Violite and Dragon Tail stuff. I guess it checks Alolan Muck. It probably is a Chinchino. If anything, yeah, that's probably the reason you'd run it. It's a Chinchino check. Maybe that... Man, fuck it. Duraludon up to B- for a Chinchino check. GG's. Golurk, it's a strong breaker. And, yeah, Bronzong team. Really, Golurk just has a good matchup into most of those balances if they don't have, like, a Lug. Even Lug, I mean, you could be Dynamic Punch randomly. You could have Trick with your band as well and mess it up. It's not foolproof. Kingdra. We're making the executive decision to remove Kingdra. And you want to know why? It's because with Rain being kind of right now, I don't think one of the worst of the Rain Mons, where it fits nowhere else, should be ranked. Palisand in... I guess it checks Croak still... I don't know. Checks Chinchino okay enough. Technically checks Toxed. It has enough fringe defensive use to justify its rank. Palmot's an okay enough breaker still. Pincurchin's the only reason you ever can see electric terrain used. Rotom Heat's kind of a flag-on check. Kind of. Sort of. I guess. Salazzle's pretty fast. Knock, Toxic, Encore. There's a lot of ways to bother those bulky water-centric teams. Scovillain, Sun. Same with Venusaur, it's just Sun teams. Smeargle, let me have this. I'm like the only person who's used a Smeargle in any level of competitive play and felt like it was good. But, look man, I set my web. I get all my hazards, I have Mortal Spin. I'm very happy with this Pokemon. Is it actually good? No. Just let me have this. This is my C-rank shitter. Staraptor, this mon just dies so quickly. It's fine, but it's not that good. Vileplume is probably not even worth ranking, by the way, but it's like Amoonguss if you were viable at running Effect Spore, and it has Strength Sap. And sometimes Amoonguss definitely wishes it had Strength Sap. Shocker, I know. And then last mon on the VR, Whimsicott, because I guess it's still a Poverty Flygon plus Water Tauros check. The question now is, is that even, like, decent? The answer is, like, no, by the way, we're unranking it. Yeah, that's my VR. I'm not going to talk about these because they're all really bad, and I don't want to talk about them. So, hope all y'all enjoyed. Let me know down below what your thoughts are. I will see you in the next video. Go watch the Battle Factory video if you still haven't yet. Peace.